500 to 1 odds. That was what the bookies were offering on the United States winning the 1950 FIFA World Cup. A team of amateurs and part-timers, they were even described by their own coach as sheep ready to be slaughtered. A ringing endorsement. England, meanwhile, were 3 to 1 favourites to win the entire tournament. They had a golden generation. The kings of football. We all know what happened next. The US men's national team was hastily assembled. 3 of the starting 11 that defeated England that fateful day were not even US citizens at the time. It was a team of immigrants, working men, and part-timers who had somehow been brought together for this one moment, the Miracle of Belo-Horizonte. Here are the stories of the men who played the game of their lives that day. Goalkeeper. Fank Borghi. Given the daunting task of keeping out Tom Finney, Stan Mortensen, Wilf Mannion and co. was Fank Borghi, a man who had originally aspired to be a professional baseball player. He was a third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals before he traded catching a baseball for catching a soccer ball. Borghi served as a medic in World War II. During the match against England, it must have brought back memories as he faced a relentless attack. 6 clear scoring opportunities in the first 12 minutes alone, with England hitting the woodwork twice. Shaken but not stirred, Borghi held firm through it all. Late in the game, he made what many consider his most crucial save, getting a hand to a header from England's Jimmy Mullen that had all but crossed the line. After football, having buried England's World Cup hopes, he famously worked as a hearse driver and eventually became director of a funeral home in St. Louis. He lived to be 89 years old and was inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame in 1976. Right back. Harry Keough. At right back was Harry Keough. Born in St. Louis to Irish and Scottish parents, Keough was considered the star of the American backline that day. He spoke Spanish, which led to an unusual role. He was chosen as captain for the opening match against Spain specifically because he could communicate with the officials. After his playing career, Keough became a legendary coach at St. Louis University. In his club career, he achieved a record of 213 wins, 50 losses, and 23 draws across 16 seasons and won 5 NCAA men's soccer championships with the Billikens. He coached the US Olympic teams in both 1952 and 1956. When he passed away in 2012 at the age of 84, like many players of his generation, he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Left back. Joe Maca. Joining Harry Keough in defence was Joe Maca, a Belgian-born defender who was not yet a US citizen when he took the field against England. Maca had been an active member of the Belgian resistance during World War II, and was awarded a medal for his service. He later became a naturalised US citizen in 1957. When asked about playing for the US while not yet being a citizen, he reflected, "We never should have played. If we hadn't beaten England, no one would have said anything. Yet he did play, and he played well." He scored 1 goal for the United States in the tournament, a penalty kick against Chile. Maca famously compared the famous US victory to the Yankees losing to an amateur team from his hometown of Massapequa. He passed away in 1982 at the age of 61. Centre-back. Charlie Colombo. At centre-half was Charlie Colombo. He may have been known for wearing them come rain or shine, but he certainly didn't play with kid gloves. Born in the Hill, a tough Italian-American neighborhood in St. Louis, Colombo is best remembered for a tactical foul late in the match. With the score at 1-0, Stan Mortensen threatened to break away for England. Colombo made a desperate tackle described as more suited to rugby than football to stop him at the edge of the box. The resulting free kick created a dangerous header that nearly leveled the game, but Fank Borghi's reflex save kept the United States ahead. After the tournament, Colombo was offered a professional contract to play in Brazil. He turned it down to return to St. Louis. He died in 1986 at the age of 65 and is buried in Old Saints Peter and Paul Catholic Cemetery in his beloved St. Louis, Missouri. Right half. Ed McIlvenny. The appointed captain for the England match was Ed McIlvenny. Scottish-born McIlvenny arrived in Brazil on a British passport, and he was another tactical choice of captain, chosen specifically because he was British. The coach felt this honour would inspire him against his home nation. It was McIlvenny who took the long throw-in that would eventually lead to the winning goal. For his part, he was the only fully professional player in the starting lineup. He would later join Manchester United under manager Matt Busby, earning the nickname the Yank, from the tail of the bank in the English press. But he made only 2 senior appearances before moving on to Waterford, where he flourished with 19 goals in 57 appearances. He continued to live in England, passing away in 1989 at the age of 64, in Eastbourne. Left half. Walter Bahr. At left half was Walter Bahr, who provided the assist for the only goal of the match. In the 38th minute, Bahr took a long-range pot shot from 25 yards out. As goalkeeper Bert Williams moved to intercept, Joe Gaetjens dived to redirect the ball into the net. Bahr was a high school PE teacher at the time, another of the working men who made up this squad. He earned 19 caps for the US national team and scored 1 goal, which came against Cuba in 1949. After his playing career ended, Bahr became a respected coach at Penn State University. He led the Nittany Lions in 12 NCAA tournaments and was named College Coach of the Year in 1979. Sporting success was clearly in his genes. His 3 sons all played professional soccer, and 2 of them, Chris and Matt, won Super Bowl rings in the NFL. Bahr was the last surviving member of the 1950 World Cup team when he passed away in 2018 at the age of 91. Outside right. Frank Wallace. The outside right was Frank Wallace, born Frank Valesenti but using the surname Wallace from his youth. He had served in World War II and was captured by German forces, spending 16 months in a prisoner of war camp. A prolific scorer for St. Louis Simpkins Ford, he won 2 US Open Cup titles with the club in 1948 and 1950. After the World Cup, he continued his career with several St. Louis teams. He died in 1979 at the age of 57 and is buried at Resurrection Cemetery in Afton, Missouri. Inside right. Gino Pariani. At inside right was Gino Pariani. Born Virginio Peter Pariani in the Hill, the same Italian neighborhood that produced Fank Borghi and Charlie Colombo, Pariani's selection for the World Cup created an unusual situation. He and his fiancée had to move their wedding date to accommodate the tournament. They were married for only 3 days when he departed for Brazil. During the opening match against Spain, Pariani scored the lone US goal in a 3-1 defeat. Against England, he played an important holding role. He nearly scored a second goal for the Americans in the second half, but his shot was saved. After the tournament, Pariani humbly returned to work at the docks, his primary living, while playing soccer on a semi-professional basis. His son Glenn later had a small role as a coach in the 2005 film about the team. Pariani died in 2007 at the age of 79 from bone cancer. Centre forward. Joe Gaetjens. Up front was the hero of the hour, Joe Gaetjens. Haitian-born, Gaetjens was not a US citizen during the tournament either, but like the others, he was eligible because he had signed a declaration of intent to become one. He was studying accounting at Columbia University on a scholarship and worked as a dishwasher in a restaurant owned by the man who ran the Brookhaven soccer team. The winning goal that would immortalize him came in the 38th minute. Gaetjens instinctively dived to head Walter Bahr's shot, redirecting it past goalkeeper Bert Williams. While Williams considered it a lucky deflection, the English defenders watching would have disputed that view. Gaetjens played all 3 matches for the US in Brazil. He returned to Haiti in 1954 as a national hero. He coached youth soccer, worked as a spokesman for Colgate, and ran a chain of dry cleaning businesses, but his life would end in tragedy. Though never politically inclined, his family had associations with opponents of dictator François Duvalier. On July 8, 1964, the morning after Duvalier declared himself president for life, Gaetjens was arrested. It is presumed he was executed in the notorious Fort Demange prison later that month. His body was never found. His legacy was cemented when he was posthumously inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame in 1976. Inside left. John Souza. At inside forward on the left was the glamorous John Souza, nicknamed Clarky for his resemblance to film star Clark Gable. Born in Fall River, Massachusetts to immigrants from the Azores, Souza was widely regarded as the most talented playmaker on the squad. After the tournament, the Brazilian sports newspaper Mundo Esportivo selected him for their World Cup All-Star team. He remained the only American player ever selected to a World Cup All-Star team for over 50 years, until Claudio Reyna in 2002. Previously, he had served in the US Navy during World War II, as a Morse code operator in the South Pacific Theater. At club level, he achieved the remarkable double of winning both the National Challenge Cup and the National Amateur Cup in the same year. Souza passed away in 2012 at the age of 91 in Dover, Pennsylvania. Outside left. Ed Souza. On the left wing was Ed Souza. Born Edward Souza Neto, in Fall River, Massachusetts in 1921, the suffix Neto is Portuguese for grandson, used for those who share the same name as their father and grandfather. Despite sharing the same hometown and World Cup team with John Souza, the two were not related. Not only did he represent the USA at this World Cup, he had also represented them at the Olympic Games 2 years prior. Ed played his club football for Fall River Ponta Delgada as both a forward and a winger, winning a US Open Cup title and 2 National Amateur Cups. He later won another National Amateur Cup with New York German Hungarians, becoming one of a select group of players to win it with 2 different clubs. He died in 1979 at the age of 57 in Warren, Rhode Island. What about the head coach? Bill Jeffrey. Guiding them through it all was coach Bill Jeffrey, a Scottish-born emigrant who had moved to the United States after injury ended his own playing career. Jeffrey is best known for his legendary tenure at Penn State University, where he coached for 31 years from 1926 to 1952. He led the Nittany Lions to an incredible 65-game unbeaten streak. He was inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame in 1951, just 1 year after the Miracle of Belo-Horizonte. Despite his pessimism heading into the 1950 tournament, Jeffrey is credited with discovering star man Joe Gaetjens in Brooklyn just before the tournament began, and inspiring them to victory. The ramifications of that 1-0 victory echoed across football. For England, the loss served as a wake-up call. The humiliation they faced in Brazil led to serious reforms. They modernized their football structure and eventually reached their finest hour when they won the World Cup in 1966. For the United States, the victory was bittersweet. It took 40 years for the team to qualify for another World Cup. Yet what made that 1950 team special was never diminished. The working men. The hearse driver and the dishwasher, the dock worker and the high school teacher, is a story that has captured the imagination of millions. The bond between those 11 unlikely starters and their story has only grown more remarkable with time. Their legacy was immortalized on film in 2005 in the game of their lives. If you're interested in hearing more football stories from back in the day, hit subscribe and check out the videos on screen. We've covered some incredible World Cup moments and forgotten footballing legends, and there is lots more to come. Please like and share this video to help our channel grow. We'll be back with more good old-fashioned football next time.